I began my work by carefully studying the finished painting, trying to capture not only the form, but also the emotional tension of the image. Using a B2 pencil, I lightly outlined the oval of the head, then added the axis of symmetry and horizontal guidelines for the eyes, nose, and lips. I used an eraser to adjust the proportions, especially the chin line and the angle of the face. After that, I moved on to detailing. I drew the eyes with a distinctive expression and dynamic strands of hair, creating a sense of movement. Then, I outlined the collar and folds of the clothing, maintaining the overall balance between figure and background. The main goal was to convey the strength of the gaze and the contrast of cool and warm tones, which will become the key element of the composition. I kept the contours light so that the acrylic could lay freely without overloading the form. Once the pencil sketch was complete, I moved on to working with acrylic. For this painting, I used 3 brushes, a fine one for the details of the face and hair, a medium one for the clothing, and a slightly larger one for the background. I started with the background, as it sets the emotional tone for the entire composition. On the left, I created a deep, almost cosmic darkness, from a mixture of dark blue and violet shades, smoothly fading into each other. On the right, I created a contrasting fiery orange and red with small touches of purple. This contrast symbolizes internal conflict, cold and fire, reason and emotion. I blended the transitions with a large brush, leaving visible brush strokes in places to maintain the vibrancy. Next, I tackled the clothing. I used a complex brown tone with a slight green tint to create the effect of dense fabric. I applied the main masses with a medium brush, and then emphasized the contours of the seams and folds with a fine one. I left a slight sheen on the collar so that it looked as if illuminated by the flames from the right. Then I moved on to the face. The gray-violet skin is a deliberate choice, emphasizing the character's emotional detachment. To create this tone, I mixed white, a touch of blue, and a touch of purple, achieving a cool light. I carefully worked the shadows, blending them with a slightly larger than medium brush to create soft transitions between light and shadow. I paid special attention to the eyes. They became the focal point of the composition. In the irises, I used a vibrant blue with white highlights, creating a sense of inner glow. I drew the eyelashes and eyebrows with a thin brush and black acrylic. Then I moved on to the lips, a deep raspberry red shade with slight darkening at the edges. This contrasts with the coolness of the skin and enhances the facial expression. After the lips, I worked on the hair. Here, I decided to give it movement and energy. The hair is done in vibrant blue and light blue tones, applied in translucent layers to create the illusion of light filtering through the strands. Using a thin brush, I added a few sharp strokes to emphasize the direction of the wind and movement. The final stage is fine detailing. I added accents, subtle shadows on the neck, highlights on the lips, enhanced the collar outline, and slightly toned down the background where it could distract from the face. I also left a few drops and brush strokes of paint to add a sense of impulsiveness and the lively process of creation. The work turned out bright, contrasting, and emotionally rich. Every detail supports the sense of the character's inner tension. Critical assessment. The painting is expressive and memorable. The contrast between cold and warm, light and shadow was successfully conveyed. The eyes are especially successful. They truly draw the eye and create a sense of internal dialogue. The hair conveys movement and energy, and the overall coloring brings the image to life. However, there are a few areas that could be improved. The face looks a little flat in places. More transitions between shadows and highlights could be added, especially in the cheeks and chin area. The contours of the lips and nose would also be worth softening a little to avoid a feeling of harshness. The background is striking, but the orange tones on the right side are a bit too overpowering. The saturation could be toned down to keep the face at the center of the composition. The style of the work can be classified as neo-expressionism, with elements of pop art, thanks to its bold color contrasts and emotional presentation. This painting will appeal to those who appreciate unconventional portraits, psychological depth, and a vibrant color palette. It would fit perfectly into the interior of a modern loft, art studio, or creative space where emotional impact, rather than realism, is paramount.